In this video, we're going to make an options menu where we're going to allow our player to adjust the audio settings and their display settings. So it's going to follow a similar structure to our main menu and our pause menu, but we're just going to build on that. So to get started, we're going to head to our utilities folder, and we need to add a couple more enums, constants, and a couple of static functions. So to get started, we'll create our first one. So we're going to name this enum resolution, which is going to be just the different types of resolutions we're going to let the player choose from. So we're going to have resolution 720p, we're going to have 900p, 1080, and 1440. Then we're going to create a constant called resolutions, and it's going to be of the type dictionary, and it's going to be it's going to reference our resolution enum. And then we're going to create a vector 2 of integers of the x and y coordinates that we're going to be using for those resolutions. So the first one for 720p is going to equal a vector 2i. We'll do 1280 by 720. We just need to repeat these for the rest of them. So go resolution for 900. It's going to equal vector 2i. 1600 by 900. Then we need to do 1080. It's going to equal a vector 2i, which is 1920 by 1080. And then lastly, we'll do 1440p. It's going to be another vector 2i, just 2560 by 1440. We're going to create a static function that is going to be get resolution text, which is what we're going to be displaying in our options menu for the player to choose from. And we're going to take in our resolution enum, which is of the type resolution. We're going to return a string. Look for our resolution, which is going to be vector 2i. It's going to be equal. We're going to look for inside of our resolutions dictionary for the enum value that we're passing in. And we're just going to return a formatted string, which we can do this by doing %d, and the x is going to be, so we do 1280 x 720 as an example. So we'll do that. And then in order to make the text properly show, we do another %, and then in an array, we give it the resolution x and the resolution y. Then we're going to make another enum. It's going to be called window mode, which is going to determine whether we're going to be full screen or windowed. So we have three options that I'm going to give it, which is going to be window, borderless, and full screen. Then we're going to make another dictionary just like we did for resolutions, where we look at window modes, which is a dictionary. As I said, it's going to equal window mode dot windowed, and it's going to be a display server, which is how we're going to update the actual window size that the player is seeing. And then we're going to do window mode windowed for this one. Just to speed this up, I'm just going to copy this 2 more times. And then windowed, we're going to do borderless. And then here, we're going to do full screen. And in our display server for borderless, we do window mode maximized. And then for full screen, it's window mode full screen. We're also just going to have another constant, basically friendly names for our window modes. We're going to call it window mode names. Is going to be another dictionary. It's going to be equal to window mode windowed. It's going to just be windowed. I'm just going to follow the same structure for the other two. So this will be borderless. This will be full screen. And here we can just give it the friendly name. And then lastly, we need two more static functions for this. We have a static function called get window mode name. We're going to pass in the mode, which is of the type window mode. We're going to return a string here as well. And we can just return our window mode names. And we pass in the key of the mode. And we're going to have one more static function, which is going to relate to our audio. So we're going to get the bus index, and the bus name is going to be a string. So we're going to return an integer. And all we're doing is returning the audio server. And we get the bus index. And then we pass in our bus name. If you remember, we have 3 audio buses right now. We have master, SFX, and music. So that's how we're going to get the index of those from within our audio. We have this set up. We're actually going to go and make the bones of our options menu. So let's go create a new scene. It is going to be a user interface. So it's going to be of type control. Rename this to the pause menu, or sorry, options menu. And inside of this option menu, we're going to have a lot of child nodes. So we're going to have a panel. We're going to have a tile map layer. We're going to add a margin container, which inside of it is going to have a VBox container. And then we're also going to add a button, which is going to function as our exit button. Inside of this margin container is going to be where we're housing all of our options that the player is going to be able to choose from. So we're going to be using sliders, options boxes, and checkboxes. But first, what we're going to need to do, let's save our scene. Make sure you put it into a new folder. I already had this in here, so I'm just going to overwrite my options menu. And in here, we want to select our options menu in the control. We want to make it a full rect. Then we want to go to our panel, do the same thing, make it a full rect. What we're going to do inside of our panel is when we call this menu, I'm going to have it have sort of a opaque, darker color, like a dark gray, sort of like what we've done in our main menu, just so it shows that we are in our options menu. So we can go into our theme overrides, styles. We're going to do a style box flat. And inside of here, just click in and kind of choose whatever you want. Just make it darker and just have some alpha so it is a little bit of see-through. That's all we have to do there. In our tile map layer, we're going to be using, inside of our assets folder, in the UI folder, we have this UI pixel. In tile set, we're going to drag in our UI pixel. We're going to hit no. These tiles are set up a little bit differently. They're 16 by 16 tiles, but if you look at them, they're a little bit off when we're dragging our cursor over them. It's because they have 2 pixels of separation on each of these. So we need to add this separation in order to get them to work right. I am going to use this blue one over here. We're going to use this for our exit button. And I'm going to select these 9 tiles to be the ones that we're going to use for our actual UI box. Now we can go down to our tile map and start painting. Let's zoom in a little bit here. And you can size this how you want. We'll probably have to play with this a little bit, but let's just start drawing. So now that we have that, we can actually start adding things into our margin and VBox container so that we can actually start filling this up. So our margin container, I'm going to want to put in this middle. And inside of our VBox, the first thing we're going to have is a label, music volume. And we can't see anything because this says white text. This is defaulting to white text. So in order for us to do this, we're going to make another theme. And we're going to hit a new theme down here. Let's develop this a little bit. So first thing we're going to add is into our label. We're going to change the font. So we're going to hit this plus sign. We're going to quick load a font, and we're going to use the bit by bit. And we're also going to change the font color. I am going to change this to be black, just so we can see it right now. And we're going to change the font size to 8. Okay, let's make sure we save this. We're going to just call this options menu theme. Save that. Now we can add this to all of our buttons and labels that we're going to be applying. So we can rename this to our music volume label. And then we actually need to give it a slider. We're going to use a horizontal slider. We're going to call this the music volume slider. This to be a child of the VBox container, not of the music volume label. So you see we have this slider here. Now we need to go make the rest of these. So we're going to have 3 or 4 more. So I'm just going to duplicate these 1, 2, 3, 4 times. The next label is going to be our sound effects volume. I'm actually going to shorten that to just be SFX volume. We can change this here. Let's use all caps for the text. I think that just looks better for this font. And change this slider to be SFX slider. This third label is going to be mute. I'm actually going to change this type. It's going to be a checkbox. We can call this mute checkbox. The fourth one is going to be our resolution. We can change this type to an option button. We'll call this our resolution options. And then the last one is going to be our screen type. And this can be a screen type options button. Also need to change this. This is going to be another option button. Let's update the labels just so we know what we're looking at here. So the purpose of us making those enums and constants in our utilities folder is going to come into play specifically for the resolution and screen type buttons. So if we go into screen type, for example, if we go into our items, we can manually start adding all these items. Like for screen type, we'll just type full screen, and then we give it an ID. So now when we go in here, we can click on full screen. We're going to be dynamically inserting these options into the code or by code. So we also need to assign our theme to all of these. We want this entire thing to, we want the entire, everything in this VBox, we want to have our options menu theme. Okay. And we're going to change these slider buttons. We also want to change, the text size in here. This currently is looking bigger than we would want. So let's reset this. No items. Now we want to go back into our theme, and we want to choose we're going to add a new override for our H slider. And we're going to go into our icons. We're going to change this grabber and grabber highlight. So we're going to add one here, add one here. We're going to go new. It's going to be a new atlas texture. Click into it. We have to drag our UI pixel over here. We're going to edit the region. So for the slider, we're going to use this, just this white one. Actually, yeah, let's just use this white one for right now. Then we're going to do the same thing over here. Do a new atlas texture. Click into it. Drag our UI pixel over here. Edit the region. And then when we're selecting it, we want it to be this one. Okay, so now you can see the difference down here. Off of it, it's just white again. I'm going to change this background color. It's not super clear right now where the slider is until you're actually clicking it. If we go in and play this now, you can kind of see what it's doing. I don't like that the white is the fill. I think it might want to be the same blue color just to give it a better look. So we should be able to do that in our theme. I think we're going to go in and make a quick change to the background here. I'm going to make it the light blue inside of the tile map layer. I think that's going to look a little bit better in our game too, rather than just be this pure white. So I'm just going to highlight, actually, yeah, we're going to do this one up here. Go back into our tile map. Let's just quickly make these changes. that's done, now we play it. I think this just looks a little bit better. Yeah, I like that look that a lot better. Now we need to go make our options menu script. We need to add a script to our options menu. And we are going to extend a button, we're going to extend a control, and we're going to give this a class name of our options menu. And we're going to give it a signal called the exit options window. We're going to pass in a value, which is going to be a bool. We're going to need this for whenever we're actually hitting the X button inside of our UI to get out of the pause menu, or get out of the options menu. And then we're going to have several onReady variables. So we're going to need to grab reference to every single one of our different types of buttons. So we have these 5. We're going to have them as onReady variables. And this should be enough for us to get started on writing the actual logic around this. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is set up our ready method. Just going to give it a pass now. And we're just going to also write out the rest of the names of the methods that we're going to need for this. We're going to have a function called set up audio controls, which doesn't return anything. We're gonna have another one that sets up the resolution. Okay. Then we also need to do this for the screen type. We're also gonna need to set up connections. We're gonna need to connect to all these buttons as well. We're gonna click on each of these buttons, and we're gonna do the music volume slider, we're going to connect on changed. Same thing for the sound effects slider. On our checkbox, we're going to do on pressed, or sorry, not on pressed, we're going to do it on toggled. On resolution options, we are going to do item selected. And then the same thing for the screen type options. So we have a lot of connections here. We're actually going to need one final one on the exit button, which is just going to be on pressed. Right now that we have the bones of this setup, let's actually go in and start developing this. So inside of our ready method, first thing we're going to do is set up our audio controls. And we're going to set up our resolution controls, and then we set up our screen type controls. In our audio controls, what we're going to be doing is we're going to get our music volume slider set the minimum value. It's going to be equal to our audio manager's minimum volume. We're going to do the same thing for our max volume. Okay. Then we also need to give it the default value that it should just carry, which we're going to do our audio manager's get music volume method. We currently don't have this, so after we build out this audio controls, we'll go in and create these methods inside of our audio manager. We also need to do this for our SFX volume. So I'm just going to copy these here, and I'm just going to replace music volume slider with our sound effects slider. And we're going to use the get SFX volume, but these values can stay the same. Let's go back to our audio manager, and let's go in and actually tweak this so this will start to make some sense. So we need to add a default sound effects constant. So let's copy this. It's going to have the same value, and we are going to have the default sound effects volume. We need to go in and add another method down at the bottom. We're just going to call our get music volume, and it's going to return a float. We need to do our get sound effects volume, which also returns a float. Inside of our music volume, we need to get our bus index, which we're going to need to find our music bus. It's going to be equal to our utils get bus index for music. Then we're going to return our audio server get bus volume db. We're going to pass in the bus index we just got. If we have a bus index that is greater than or equal to 0, else we default to our default music value. We can get rid of this return here, and let's just copy this. It's going to be more or less the same thing. except this is going to be SFX, and this will be our default sound effects volume value. That's all that we should have to do here right now. We'll be coming back to the audio manager in a little bit. So back in the options menu, we need to fill out the rest of these methods. So in our setup resolution options, what we're going to do is first, we're just going to clear everything out. Just make sure we're working on a clean slate. Now we're going to loop through our resolutions that we created inside of our utils file. We're going to loop through all these values. We're going to get the text here. It's going to be string. Then we get our tap into our utils again, and then we get resolution text. And we pass in the resolution. And we want to update our resolution options. So we add an item into it. We give it the text and the resolution. So we're giving it the displayed text and then the actual value that applies to it. Then after that, we do back into our resolution options, selected. So this is going to be the default value that's displayed. And we can do equal to our settings manager, which is something that we have not created yet. We're going to be doing that shortly. We're going to grab our default resolution index. We're going to do the same thing here, and then we're going to come back and we're going to create our settings manager so that we can actually populate this. So again, we can more or less copy this since we're doing the same type of stuff, except this is going to be a screen type options. This will be screen type, and here we'll be looking for our screen types. Oh, not screen types, we want to be looking for our window modes. Then we can just pop this out like this. Right. And instead of here, this is going to be our default window type index. So now we need to go make our settings manager. So we're going to actually create a new global script. So this is going to be the script inside of our globals folder, and it's going to be called settings manager. All right, so just to get ahead of it, let's go in and just add this into our project settings, into our globals. So let's go find this in our globals and add it. Great. Okay, now that we have that, we're going to fill this out. It's not too long of a script. We're going to have a couple of signals. Just going to be the resolution changed and a signal of window mode changed. I have two constants, which are going to be the ones that we were just referring to in the options menu. So going to be our default resolution index, which is a integer, and it's going to default to 0. And we have another constant, our default window type index, which is again an integer, and it's going to default to 0. Okay, so that will get rid of these. It's not the only thing we're going to do in the settings manager. We'll get back and we're going to set those up as we keep moving through this script. The last thing that we're going to do right now inside of our options menu is we're going to take care of the on exit button pressed. All we're going to be doing is getting into our exit button, which we need to bring as an onReady variable. Oh, no, we don't. We are going to be getting this signal, sorry, and we are going to emit false. We're going to come back to these. We need to go fill out the rest of our audio manager and our settings manager in order to deal with how we're going to work with these. So the first thing that we'll do is go back to our audio manager, and we're going to refactor this, and we're also going to make a similar method for our sound effects. Okay, so inside of the music volume, I actually can leave this value. We're just going to do some other checks and get another variable before we get into that. We're going to do something similar to the bus index. An integer, and it's going to equal the get bus index for music. And we do if bus index is less than 0, just a safety check here. I'm going to print an error, and music bus not found. We can return. Otherwise, we're going to set the bus volume for our bus index, and we're going to clamp this float. I'm going to take in our value, then the minimum and the max, and do the same thing. inside of our sound effects. Except we just need to update this. Then we also need to deal with toggling our mute. So we create a function for toggle mute with a variable that's passed in. It's a bool for is muted, not going to return anything. And we can also do something similar to this. So I'm just going to copy and paste and I'll explain the changes. So this is going to tap into our master bus because we want to control all of the audio, and music and sound effects are both children of the master bus. So we can do the same check, and if we don't find the master bus, we want to error out. But all we're going to be doing here is, instead of all of this, we're going to set bus mute, and it's going to be on our bus index, and then pass in the value of is muted. We also want to have a method called is muted, which is going to return a bool. And we're going to take some of this again. We're going to get the bus index. But we're not going to do that check. We're just going to return the audio server. We're going to check is the bus. Do is bus mute. Pass in the bus index. And if we have a bus index that's greater than or equal to 0, else false. So it's similar to these get music volume and the get sound effects volume. So that wraps up everything that we need in our audio manager. So let's go finish out what we're gonna need in our settings manager. So we're gonna need a ready method here. Pass for now. We're gonna build out the two methods that we're gonna need first. We're going to have set resolution, which takes in our resolution enum, which is going to have an integer value. It's not going to return anything. And we're also going to have our set window type, which takes in a window mode enum, which is an integer. It also doesn't return anything. So in here, we're going to do a safety check real quick, or if it's not utils.resolutions, check if it has the enum value that we're passing in. And if it doesn't, we print error. Invalid resolution name, and then we pass in the resolution. And we want to return, so we don't continue. Otherwise, we're going to get a new resolution, which is going to be of a vector 2i, and it's going to equal the utils resolutions with the key of our resolution enum. Then we want to go to our display server. We're going to do Windows set size. Then we pass in our new resolution. And we're going to emit the resolution change signal. In set window type, we're going to do it slightly different, but it's still pretty similar. We're actually going to keep this top if check. Just going to adapt it for window modes. Check the mode enum. And do the same thing here. And we'll do invalid window mode name. Okay. Then all we're going to be doing is tapping into our display server, Windows set mode, and we're going to just do utils window modes and pass in the key. We could have done the same thing above, but it's just two ways to do the same thing. And now we want to emit our window mode change signal. Now that we have the audio manager and the settings manager completely set up, we can go back to our options menu and we can start filling out all of these methods. So on our music volume slider changed signal, we're going to tap into our audio manager. We're going to adjust music volume. This is going to be taking in a value that's a float, and we're going to be passing in the value here. This is also the sound effects. It's also going to be passing in a value of a float. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to tap into our audio manager. We're going to adjust our sound effects. And we pass in the value. In our mute checkbox toggled method, we're going to also get into our audio manager. We're going to toggle mute and pass in toggled on. In the on resolution options item selected, we are going to get the resolution enum. An integer, and we're going to get the resolution options get item, ID, pass in the index, then we go into our settings manager, and we're going to set the resolution. We're going to pass in our resolution. We're going to do something very similar for the screen type options, where we're going to get our mode, just manager, our screen type options, get item ID, pass in the index, then we go to our settings manager, set window type, and we pass in the mode, So now that we have all this, we should be able to test this scene out. So it needs to be a little bit bigger, but you can see I must have messed something up because this is supposed to be full screen. This is still referencing our resolutions. But if you change this now, you can actually see that our window is adjusting based on what we're selecting. Okay, this is muting. The music is not changing. That might be because we didn't assign music properly to the bus. So we can fix that also. But let's see where I messed this up. So it should be in the setup screen types. Yeah, we're not getting resolution text. We want to get our window mode name. Okay, so now when we check this, there we go. Now we can hit full screen. So the sizing of that is still off. It also didn't look like it carried our theme into each of these, like these buttons. It got the labels are fine, but these buttons don't carry our text. Okay, so it looks like all you have to do is in our types, we have to add what's a pop-up menu. We can add our font, and then we definitely need to change the font size. It was way too big. So if we change it to 8, it still looks really, really clunky, but I think it's fine for right now. That still didn't seem to update my font size, but we're just going to leave that as is for right now. We can come back and tweak the theme later. The one thing I want to figure out is this music volume is not actually reducing in value or changing when I'm updating the slider. The mute works. We can't really test the sound effects right now because we're not doing anything. But all the other buttons are working except for the music volume. So I have a feeling that means we didn't assign our audio where the background music is playing to the music bus. So let's see if we can go through that real quick. One thing we did forget was to adjust our SFX volume here, and then we pass in the default right here. We are getting some errors down here, so I'm going through them and trying to fix them right now. We are missing values inside of our on sound effects slider changed and on music volume slider changed, coming from within our setup audio controls. Something's happening in here. Okay, I see what's happening here. We actually are connecting to the wrong signal. Instead of changed, we need value changed. So we're going to disconnect the music volume and the sound effects volume, and we need to do this one. We need to do value changed. Okay, and I am going to copy both of these. I'm going to take these lines, what's in the actual body, can stay the same, but we do not connect to that signal. That was the wrong one to connect to. Okay, so now when we play this, we should get no more errors. And now you can see it's actually working. Great. Now we need to actually implement this into our pause menu and our main menu. So we'll handle the main menu first. Let's go find our main menu scene. Let's look here, and the first thing that we need to do is we need to add our options menu to the scene. We're not going to make it visible, and we need to add an options button. This one in the middle. Call this one options, option button. We want to apply our theme to it. So we're going to load our theme. It's going to be the UI theme. We're just going to type in options. I'm going to make my button container a little bit bigger. I'm going to hold Alt while I do this so it goes the same in both directions. Now I can save this, and then we need to go into our script and actually connect this button. So on pressed is what we want to connect to. And we need to set up a little bit more before we can just deal with this here. So we're going to need the options menu as an onReady variable. And we're going to create a regular variable called options menu visible, which is a Boolean, and we're going to default to false. And we need to add a ready method. And we're going to do options menu. We're going to set the process to our options menu visible. We're going to get our options menu and set the visibility is going to be equal to our options menu visible. And then we are going to need the options menu. We're going to connect to the exit options window signal. Connect on exit options window. Let's make that method just so we have it. Okay. We're also going to need to add a process method here. And inside it's just going to be one line. It's going to be set options menu processing. We're going to pass in the options menu visible Boolean. Let's create that method right now. It's going to take in a value, which is the bool. And then we are just going to redo all of these. So I'm not going to connect here. We're going to do the visible is going to be there. But first, we need to set this to the value. Okay, so we're resetting our options menu visible Boolean to the value we're passing in. We're resetting the process here, and then we're setting the visibility of our options menu to the new value of the Boolean. We're going to add one more method here before we work on the other two. It's going to be called allow main menu buttons. So when we're in our options menu, we don't want the main menu buttons to be accidentally pressed. So we just need to account for that, where we're going to pass in a value here, which is a bool, and it's going to default to true. I'm not going to return anything now. And I'm just going to loop through our button, loop through every button, which is of the type button in our button container, which we already have as an onReady variable. We're going to get all the children inside of there. And we're going to disable all the buttons. We're going to set the disabled property to whatever the value is that we're passing in here. So then on our exit options window, we're going to set the options processing to the value, which again is something that we're passing in. It's a Boolean, and we're defaulting to true. We're also going to do allow main menu buttons and pass in the value. Then on the option button pressed, we need to do something similar here, where we need to loop through our button or button in our button containers children. And we button disabled is going to equal true. And our option menu visible Boolean is also going to be set to true. Okay, so now we should be able to play our main scene. Nothing is here. If I hit options, this pops up. We actually didn't create our exit button, so this doesn't work. Let's go do that real quick before we do this in the pause menu also. So back in our options menu, I'm going to go to the 2D. We do have our exit button, and what we're going to do is we're going to go to our theme overrides in our icon. We're going to do an Atlas texture, and we need to go back into our UI pixel image, drag that here. We're going to edit the region, and this is the one that we're going to choose. So I close this. See, we have our X here. Looks a little bit weird. It has this opaque background to it. So we are going to apply some theme overrides. We need to click in to our exit button. We click on our exit button and we go down to styles. What we're going to do here is just new style box empty for all of these. So now on our normal button, it's just this square, and I'm going to place it here. Okay, so now when we play, that button should be synced up. So now when we click it, we're back here. Now we need to do the same thing for our pause menu. It's going to look very, very similar. So I'm going to keep the main menu script up here right now. We're going to bring up our pause menu scene. We need to go into our pause menu. We need to add our options menu. We need to make sure we're clicking this visibility here. We don't want it to be visible right out of the gate. Let's make this visible right now. And we're going to add another button. Call this the option button. Going to give it a theme. Can load our options menu theme. Oh, sorry, not our options menu theme. We want our UI theme. And here, options. Okay, that looks good. Now we need to go back to our script. We need to connect to this button. One button pressed. We need to also allow the same thing we did for the main menu on the allow main menu buttons and the options menu processing. So we're going to need both of these methods. Just might not be the best way to do this. We could probably pull this out and make this not repeatable, but right now, this is how we're going to do it. I'm going to rename this our pause menu. We need to drag the options menu in as an onReady variable. We're also going to need the bbox container, but we're going to rename this to button container. We can drag that in as an onReady variable. We're also going to need our options menu visible boolean, which defaults to false. Inside of our on option button press, again, it's going to be the same thing here. So we can just copy that from our main menu. Great. Then we need to go back into the ready method. And I think we can actually copy this from here as well. So this is, again, we shouldn't really be copying and pasting this much code. That means since it's shareable, we really should have this in one place that we can all reference, which we'll refactor that in the future. But for right now, this is how we're going to just proceed with this so we can wrap up this video. We need to make this, and again, it can be the same thing as our previous one. We're just going to set the processing, except this is going to be pause menu, and we need to be passing a value which is a bool, and it defaults to true. So now we can play our game. This is showing, so I need to set the visibility on our pause menu to off. Now we play this, so here we can mute. When we start, okay, it's not showing, so something is off. Didn't add this to our process method. We need to also do our set options menu processing, options menu visible boolean. This should work now. Great. Now we're all set. And that's just a quick setup for the options menu, just to give you a feel for this type of stuff you can put into your options menu. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments.